What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we need to have a little bit of a look at the tournament rules for the Transformers trading card game. This is something we've not really looked at before. There has been an update this week. I'm going to run you through the updates, and I don't intend going through every single part, but I will at the end, after we've done the new stuff, and I will timestamp it in the description. I will just have a quick look through some of the main rules that you need to be aware of, that depending on other card games you may or may not be aware of. These aren't just for people who are going to be playing at Gen Con in a week or two, and they're not just for people who are going to be playing at PAX Unplugged. These are for people who are going to release day tournaments, or indeed any Transformers TCG tournaments. So starting off then, there are 4 new things, the first one of which they have really clarified secret actions, and they have made it extremely clear that secret actions, while they are in play, revealing them is optional. If additional game actions occur after the event that would have revealed the secret action, the player whose secret action it is will be considered to have elected not to reveal it. If a player has a secret action in play, they should be given a reasonable amount of time to reveal it. Now, the best example we've got here is if your opponent uses Brainstorm and you've got Infiltrate down. So Brainstorm says that you can play 2 additional actions other than Brainstorm. And Infiltrate, now Infiltrate's a very interesting one, because it is revealed when your opponent plays an orange action. The thing is, with Brainstorm they can play 2. So it was initially, and it has been dropped back since, but it was initially ruled that revealing it was not optional. So if your opponent had one they really didn't want blocked, they could play one that you had to block and then play a second. What this basically means is when they play the first, you have got to be given a reasonable amount of time to decide whether to reveal it or not. That is the Infiltrate, and that's up to, you know, we all know what a reasonable amount of time means, yeah? If they go, I'll play this one, then this one, that's not a reasonable amount of time. Similarly, after like 5-10 seconds, clearly, if you've not revealed it, you're not going to. But as soon as a second action is played, you cannot reveal Infiltrate for the first action, only for the second. You have missed the opportunity. Now, they have also updated the extra turns rule, or I suppose added the extra turn rule. And that is something we've talked about before. Players cannot take more than 2 turns in a row under any circumstances. Any additional turns beyond 2 consecutive turns are skipped and not deferred or saved for the future. Now, this is what we talked about. I'll link this one in the description. It was all to do with the interaction of Peace Through Tyranny and I Still Function. What you could do was use I Still Function to bring a KO'd bot back, and then play Peace Through Tyranny to KO it, giving you an extra turn, and then during that extra turn, and again, you would have to use Brainstorm to play both at the same time, but use I Still Function to bring a character back, and then use Peace Through Tyranny. It created the possibility of an infinite loop, and now at first it was with swap parts, which is still banned. More recently, it was with Private Red Heat, whose tap ability is basically swap parts. You've got to discard a white icon card from your hand, but then it is just swap parts. I've done videos about it. I'll link them in the description if you want to know more. But it is now ingrained in the tournament rules. You cannot ever have more than 2 turns in a rule regardless. They have updated the list of promo cards that you can use. They have included Flame War, Bumblebee, and Private Red Alert, the gold foil variant. These are the foil cards that were given out or are currently being given out during League. And they're kind of beautiful. They're just exactly the same as the others, but gold. Now, interestingly enough, and this is very important, it is confirmed in the rules mechanically unique promo cards are permitted in Transformers TCG constructed tournaments on or after the dates they are released. Promo cards which are alternate art are considered to be copies of the original printed card. Now that is very important for, say, the Omnibots, which have just been released at San Diego Comic-Con, and indeed the Blaster vs. Soundwave deck, which has just been released at San Diego Comic-Con. They are already legal. So we've got Gen Con coming up very, very shortly. The Omnibots and the Blaster vs. Soundwave deck, all legal at Gen Con for that tournament. I love the clarity here. It's going to lead down the road to some very interesting scenarios where we've got tournaments like Gen Con, in fact, really close to the release of a promo card, like, for instance, the Omnibots or the Soundwave vs. Blaster deck. And it's going to be really interesting to see how people deal with that, whether they try and surprise people by playing decks you don't see coming, or whether they go, no, it's too new, I've not had enough time to practice. And there's just been a little bit of expansion in terms of the sideboard rules. So the rules are, we know what they are, but it's nice and clear here. They can have one character card of 20 stars or fewer. Basically, that's just stopping you sideboarding Metroplex. And up to 10 battle cards, not swap parts. Swap parts is banned. And no more than 3 copies of each battle card are allowed in the combination of deck and sideboard. You wouldn't really need that, but it's now there. Duplicate character cards are not allowed between decks and sideboard, so you still can't break the rules. After sideboarding, decks must be legal, which again, if you follow the other rules, they will be. After each game in a match, the player who won chooses to sideboard a character first and declares their team. Then the player who lost does the same. And then they swap battle cards simultaneously. That means that if your opponent is swapping in Nemesis Prime, you know they're going to a more traditional Optimus Prime Nemesis Prime build, and you then, as the player who lost the first game, have the opportunity to try and sideboard in to counter it. It's basically just giving a bit of an advantage to the player that lost game 1 to try and, I don't know, even it up a little bit in game 2. It's kind of cool. Players are not required to reveal how many battle cards they have swapped, but after sideboarding, their sideboard may not exceed the maximum sideboard size. That is 10 battle cards. That is very important, because remember, your deck can be 40 plus cards. There's no maximum deck size. So after sideboarding, you could, in theory, take 20 cards out of your deck, as long as there's still 40 left. This rule says no, you are only allowed 40 cards. So if you start with a 60 card deck, and you've got 10 sideboard cards, you can't remove any cards. If you start with a 60 card deck and no sideboard cards, you can go down to a 50 card deck, but no lower. Now, like I've said, I don't intend going through the entirety of the tournament rules. That is not my goal in this particular video. But I do want to bring to your attention a couple things you should bear in mind that might get you in trouble if you do a bad thing. Conceding or intentionally drawing games or matches. If a game or match is not completed, players may concede or mutually agree to draw. A match is considered complete once the result slip is filled out. If match slips are not being used, a player leaves the table. Players may not agree to a concession or draw in exchange for any reward or incentive. Doing so will be considered bribery. So essentially what that means is, if somebody goes, I don't want to play anymore, you can win, that's fine. If somebody goes, I will concede this game if you give me your booster pack prizes, that is very, very bad. You're not allowed to do that. Don't do that. Taking notes, you are allowed to take notes during a match and you can refer to them while the match is in progress, but you must have an empty note sheet at the beginning of the game, and it must remain visible throughout the match. Players do not have to explain or reveal notes to other players, but you might have to explain it to a judge. You may not refer to other notes during games, even ones taken from previous matches. So that generally fits with what we see in other games. What I do love, and this is very lenient compared to most games, electronic devices. Players may use electronic devices to do the following: take and review notes, briefly answer personal calls not related to the game. That's kind of cool. As somebody with a wife and children, yes, I can understand you sometimes absolutely need to. So that's kind of nice. In terms of video coverage, players may decline to appear on camera if they wish. In some games, it is mandatory that if you go to the tournament, you might be recorded. You can't say no. Not the case with Transformers. Video commentators are considered spectators, but may talk during the match as long as they are out of earshot of the players being covered. More difficult for me because I'm naturally a very loud man. And you must act respectfully to everyone. That makes perfect sense. Spectators are also permitted to record matches provided they do so unobtrusively. Because of the delays inherent in using video replay, judges are not permitted to use it to assist in making rulings during a match, though they might be used for investigative purposes at a later time. I.e., if you cheat in a recorded match, you may get away with it during the game, but they might look at it later and catch you. This is wonderful, and I absolutely love it. Proxy cards can be made only by the head judge if you have a card which is accidentally damaged or excessively worn in the current tournament. That's really cool. If you damage it intentionally or you don't own the card, then no, you can't proxy it. But if a card gets accidentally damaged during a tournament, you can actually have a proxy made by the head judge. That's pretty ridiculous. And just as a side note, it is in the tournament rules, if a card is tapped, it must be clearly turned approximately 90 degrees. In other games, most people go 45 degrees. No, 90 degrees, ladies and gentlemen, 90 degrees. One thing which is interesting, out-of-order sequencing is allowed. Due to the complexity of accurately representing a game of the Transformers TCG, it is acceptable for players to engage in a block of actions that, while technically in an incorrect order, arrive at a legal and clearly understood game state once they are complete. All actions taken must be legal if they were executed in the correct order. So you can do things slightly out of order as long as it all works out like it should have done at the end. Now, going into some tournament violations, these could trip you up. Cheating will not be tolerated. The head judge reviews all cheating allegations. If a player is cheated or they believe that they have, they'll be issued the appropriate penalty based on the infraction procedure guide. All disqualifications are subject to review and further penalties may be assessed. So it's not just getting off of them. Collusion and bribery, I'm going to make this one as quick as I can. If you intentionally draw or concede a game, it cannot be because you're getting something in return for it. Similarly, the result of a match may not be randomly or arbitrarily determined through any means other than the normal progress of the game in play. Examples include, but are not limited to, rolling a die, flipping a coin, arm wrestling, or playing any other game. Players may not reach an agreement in conjunction with other matches, i.e. two people both agree to concede to put two other people into top cut. Remember, if you concede to put someone into top cut, you are also conceding to put someone out of top cut. If there is a cut to top 8, conceding to put someone into top cut does not make you a nice person. Because, okay, fine, you're a lovely person for putting someone into cut, but you're a horrible person for putting someone out of cut. It's not a nice thing. You are allowed to make use of information regarding other matches, but you're not allowed to leave your seats during the match or go to great lengths to obtain this information. I.e., if you can see that the player next to you is losing, so you can concede and you and your friend you're playing against both make it into cut, that's fine. But if they're 3 tables down and you get up to go and watch a bit of their match to decide whether you can afford to concede to put your friend into cut, no, that is very, very bad. Now, the other thing which is very interesting, players in the single elimination round of a tournament offering only cash and or unopened products as prizes may agree to split the prizes evenly. And then you can end the tournament or continue to play. So if there's a top 4 of a $1,000 prize, the top 4 players can all go, should we all just take $250 each and go grab some Mackies? And that's absolutely fine. Unsportsmanlike conduct is not allowed, and basically you'll be told to leave. That is, using profanity, acting in a threatening manner, arguing with, acting belligerently toward or harassing tournament officials, players or spectators, and failing to follow the instructions of a tournament official. All incidents of unsporting conduct are subject to further review. And there is even a note in there about slow play. Players must take their turns in a timely fashion, regardless of the complexity of the play situation, and adhere to time limits specified for the tournament. Players must maintain a pace to allow the match to be finished in the announced time limit. Stalling is not acceptable. Players may ask a judge to watch their game for slow play. Such a request will be granted if feasible. Obviously, if you've got 8 games going on and 2 judges and every game asks for slow play to be assessed, that's physically not possible for a judge to look at. But as long as they can, they will. There's no rules as to what exactly constitutes slow play and what doesn't. But you know what? We've all been there, we know what it is, and similarly we've all been in that situation where it's coming towards the end of the game and we start playing more slowly because we're running out of options and we want to make sure we do it right, etc. That's still not okay, ladies and gentlemen. It's not okay. So there we go, that's what you need to know, the updates that were added this time round, as well as some stuff we didn't look at before, which I think you need to know to stop yourself getting in trouble. I will link the full tournament rules in the description, so if you want to go and have a gander, you absolutely can. For now, ladies and gentlemen, tell me what you think about these rules in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and follow me on Twitter at the Wossy, where we talk about Transformers and a whole bunch of other card games. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wossy Plays.